All right, good to see everyone. Thanks for coming out and covering us. We hope we let you know that how much we appreciate it, and we got to bounce back. Virginia Tech didn't play our best game. Credit to them. I think a lot of the problems that we had were because of the level they played at, and we didn't play well. And having said that, in the fourth quarter we had the ball down 6 with a chance to win it. And then the 2 interceptions, I think the score got uglier than the game was. But they played well. They outplayed us. We got to bounce back. And certainly the opponent this week presents every type of challenge you could ask for. It's really amazing. I wonder if that's a Clemson fan out there. It's really it's amazing what Dabo and his staff have done down there. The consecutive 10-win seasons, the 5th consecutive Atlantic Coastal Championship. Was it 25 straight wins now? He and his staff have done a great job. And it's the combination of great talent and an extremely well-coached team. They do everything well. And that's a credit to Dabo and his staff. They're the number 1 offense in the ACC. They're averaging over 45 points a game, about 550 yards. A lot of times you'd say it starts with the quarterback. You could say it's any one of their players it starts with. Obviously, Lawrence is an extremely gifted quarterback. If he was immobile, he'd still be great. And you take his ability to throw the ball and stretch the field and make every throw, and he can also run the ball. So it really presents some numbers problems. You have box counts, and if you load the box, then you're going against Justin Ross, T. Higgins, and Amari Rogers, which this might be the best collection of receivers that we've ever faced. And then Travis Etienne is, again, there's some great tailbacks in this league. Cam Akers, A.J. Dillon, and Etienne is right up there with those guys. They're all great players. He's up there. He's a tremendous skill. But the difference with Clemson in years past, and I said this a year ago, is just how good their offensive line is. If we had to evaluate their offensive line, I think as a staff, we would say this offensive line that we're about to face on Saturday and the Notre Dame offensive line in 17 that we faced are probably the 2 best offensive lines that we've ever played against here. So you have this really good offensive line with an extremely gifted quarterback, a big-time tailback, 3 receivers, tight ends that are versatile and can block. And I think collectively, this is probably the best offense that we've ever faced. So we've got a challenge on our hands. And then defensively, with Clemson every year, you look at who they're going to graduate and you have a little bit of hope, and then you watch the film, and they're number 1 in the ACC in defense. They're giving up 11.5 points a game. I think Carolina had 290 yards against them, which is the most any opponent has had. Only 1 team has scored in the 20s, and that's Carolina with 20. And again, it's across the board. Xavier Thomas, Isaiah Simmons, Muse, Terrell. These are all high-end players. So they've done a great job. We're going to go down to a great environment. But our players are up for the challenge. We know what's in front of us, and we're excited about it. We get this opportunity once a year against Clemson. Certainly we did not play well a year ago. I think that game, as much as anything, kind of flipped our season. That after that game, we had to do some real soul-searching as a team and as a staff. And I was proud since then how our teams responded. And here we go. We get another shot at them. And, we're going to have to play well. But, hey, that's what makes it fun. And we love the challenge, and we embrace the challenge, and we know how tough it's going to be. Before I get going, I just update you guys. I've always told you if a player's out for the year, I'd let you know. Sage Surratt's going to be out for the season. That he suffered an injury that will require surgery, and unfortunately he'll be out for the year. And again, I feel I feel bad for Sage. He was having a great year, I think an All-American, All-ACC type season. A great competitor. He was a kid in the offseason that really became obsessed with becoming a great football player. And, I feel awful for him, but that's football. And it just seems like every year there's that one position that you get hit. And, unfortunately for us right now, it's receiver. Scotty Washington will not play this week. Scotty is not out for the year. I'm not sure when he'll be back, but this week is not looking good, and we'll just play it as it goes. At some point, hopefully we'll have him back. I don't know when that is. But again, that's football. I was watching last year's Clemson game. My wife, when I went home, suggested that we watch a horror movie, and I said, no, I already got one here. I'm watching our Clemson game from 18, and that was a game that it was linebacker. Ryan Smenda couldn't play because of a hamstring. Justin Stenad had a concussion. DJ Taylor got hurt in that game. Cam Glenn got ejected for targeting. And at the end of the game, we had a skeleton crew, and Clemson made us pay. And, this is a game that you'd love to be at full strength, but again, it's football, it's week 10. Everybody to some degree goes through this, except Clemson. I think they're playing with everybody. They're too deep, looks exactly like the way they thought it would be out of preseason camp. And that's one of the advantages of, they're always playing with a big lead, so they've limited, their kids haven't had to play as many reps as our kids did being in all these one-score games. But Waydell Jones, Stephen Claude, Torian Perry, there's a reason we recruited these guys. They're talented. This is their chance to step up, and we have confidence they will. It's never good to lose a player of Sage's caliber. The silver lining is we now know we have 4 games left. So Donovan Green has not played. We can now get Donovan Green going a little bit, and he can play in these last 4 games and not lose his red shirt. And, everyone else is going to have to step up. We'll have to play a little bit better on the O-line. The running backs will have to play better. The tight ends will have to play better. And Jamie Newman is going to have to be really sharp. But again, we embrace the challenge, and we're looking forward to it.
At wide receiver, I know at certain times over the last 2 or 3 years, you've tended to go with the hot hand at running back. Will you kind of be looking for that hot hand at wide receiver the next couple games?
Right now we're just trying to get guys lined up, and these guys have been getting practice reps the whole year. If you were allowed to watch us practice, you'd notice that we've been given Waydell and Torian and even pulling Donovan up, and we've been giving those guys practice reps all year. The reps in practice are 50-50. And so now those guys will get in the game, and we'll see what they can do. Certainly, you got to be able to get lined up, and you got to be able to do your job, and then you got to be able to make plays. And right now we'll definitely play. Steven and Waydell will start. Torian will work in there. I'm sure at some point we'll get Donovan in there. And again, those guys are good players. They are. They just lack experience. And it'll be baptism by fire this week. But hey, that's football. That's the ACC, and we have all the confidence in the world that those guys are going to be ready to go.
You mentioned your season turned after the Clemson game last year. I read somewhere earlier that you actually think Dabo's winning after that game. Why?
I don't remember thanking him for that game. What I did, I think sometimes unfairly, I think Dabo at times unfairly is accused of running the score up. And, in last year's game, they had their subs in and they had their twos in, and, they were just running base plays, and we didn't stop them. And at that point, we had a bunch of backups in because we were injured. And, after the game was over, I just wanted to diffuse any notion that they tried to run it up. And I just said, hey, thanks. I saw you pulled your guys, and if it comes up, in no way do I think you tried to run it up. You were just running base plays, and we didn't stop them, and it's our job to stop them. And I thanked him for that. And I don't remember thanking him for the beating that we took, and that was our fault, not theirs. But certainly the next day as a team meeting, we had one of those team meetings that I really felt the season could turn. And our response to that game was going to be critical. And we had a heart-to-heart with the whole team of the things that I wasn't doing right, that I wasn't doing a good job with, and I promised to fix it. But then I showed some plays on film that was one of the few games here that I think you could turn on the film and you'd say Wake Forest quit. And that really bothered me. That tore me up. And I didn't sleep for a few days. And I said, I'll own it's my job to prepare you, but you've got to own what you're putting on this film. And if we own it together, we'll get better. If we point fingers at each other, it's not going to get better, it's going to get worse. And I think the response of our football team speaks for itself of what happened after that game.
Yeah, it seems like the easiest way to kind of take some pressure off the new guys, or not new, but at least the guys that haven't been playing all year at receiver, is to get the running game going. And then I think it was like 63 yards against Virginia Tech was the lowest it's been since the second to last game in 15. What needs to get solved up front to kind of open things up in the passing game?
I mean, I think a lot of times when you run the ball, you say, okay, you're not doing a good job up front. The nature of what we do on offense, and people may not like it or be critical of it, but I think the results of it speak for themselves the last 3 years, is that, we're going to take what a defense gives us. And when Virginia Tech is blitzing linebackers and puts their rover right in the box and is playing single coverage on the outside, it's hard to get your run numbers. And, so I don't know if we didn't run it well. We didn't have the numbers to run it. And all year, when we've had that type of box counts, we've thrown the ball for 300-400 yards, and Sage and Scotty and Kendall have had huge games, and we've won. You know what I'm saying? And in that game, credit to Virginia Tech, they covered us. That we didn't get the separation that we've gotten most games. I think the Caleb Farley's a good player. Diablo's a good player. The other corner that was suspended is a high-end player. And it got, our receivers were probably more challenged than they'd been all year. And when you get challenged like that, you've got to play with more detail, and you've got to run the offense better. And I think we had a little bit of a frustration level, because here we are week 9, and for the first time, hey, it's not as clean as it is in practice or clean as it was in the game. So I don't think our response to that as an offense was as good as it needed to be. We had some things open in the passing game that we missed. I mean, if you go back, Kendall Hinton, 3 or 4 times was wide open across the middle. And, those are plays that we usually hit in our sleep. And whether Jamie overthrew it or underthrew it or Kendall dropped it or the angle of the route wasn't what we practiced, we were off. We didn't play well. And you go back there and you'd run that play 20 times again. And we've run that play 1,000 times, and there's some highlights. And we flat out didn't play well. That, the route wasn't as detailed, or the ball wasn't where it should be. And, if a game comes down to Jamie Newman hitting Kendall Hinton, I'll take those odds every single week. And the players aren't robots. At times, they're not going to be perfect. And that was a game against a good football team and an ascending football team that we had to execute at a really high level, especially with what they were doing on defense. And the bottom line is we didn't do it. No excuses. We didn't play as well as we needed to play. And I think you go into any game like Clemson and, yes, they have this and yes, they have that. We've got to fix ourselves, because if we executed like that, and some of those 7 wins, if we had played like that, they wouldn't have been wins.
You talked about after the Louisville game how valuable losses can be in terms of the lessons you learned. So how are the lessons different looking at this Virginia Tech game?
Well, I think one of the big lessons was we were the least penalized team in the country going into that game, and we had 6 penalties, and none of them were holds or pass interference or targetings. They were all pre-snap, to me, lack of focus penalties. So we had 2 false starts on offense, a delay of game, and 3 offsides on defense. Those are all 6 of them. There's not one of those penalties that Virginia Tech forced us into. And, handling the crowd and the noise and things like that. And it's not going to get easier this week. So that's one of the things that, hey, it's one thing to pipe in crowd noise and music and make it loud. It's another thing to be able to handle the environment in a game day. And my hope is we handle it much better this week than we did a week ago. That's lesson one. I think lesson two is you have to practice at full speed with what we do on offense, the timing of our passing game. Especially with new guys out there, we've got to practice full speed. Because whatever we do in practice, the execution level better be better in the game because of who we're playing against. And I just think that attention to detail, and as you play good football teams, which Virginia Tech is, and certainly Clemson is an elite team, you're going to go back and you have to execute at a high level doing what you do. And if you don't against a team like this, you really give yourself no shot. And the other thing is in a game like this, you have to start fast. These guys have outscored their opponent 125-7 in the first quarter. I mean, every game but 3 was a 2-score lead after 1 quarter. Every game but 1 was a 2-score lead at the half. 14 points is the smallest lead they had in any game other than Carolina. And, these guys are used to going fast, and, you better be ready to play from the opening kickoff. If we show up the way we did against Louisville, against these guys, it'll be 28-0. And they've done that to opponents. So, hey, this is big boy football. This is a national championship team, well coached. And, the other thing about Clemson is these guys play the game right. They really do. This is not a team that talks a lot. And, those guys go out there and play. And, I think people take their excellence and criticize the rest of the ACC rather than appreciating their excellence and the level they're doing things at there.
Are there any lessons from the Carolina-Clemson game that you can take as you either try to instill confidence into your guys or replicate things that they did against the Tigers?
Yeah, absolutely. We study film and we look at what Carolina did and how they did it. Absolutely. Now, what that is, I'm certainly not going to share. But, yeah, you watch film, and, Carolina played them great. Carolina did a great job against them, and, the big thing is they stayed in the game. They were the only team that Clemson has played as you came out at halftime, and it was still a football game. And, even last year, we did some good things in this game. We had some 3-and-outs in the first half, and we just never got anything going offensively, and then just their explosive plays, which when you have the skill level they do, like this is one of those games you can never, ever relax. They are always one play away from going 99 yards. And who is it? It's any of them. And this is what makes them such a tough out.
Give me a sense for how many games you're watching to prepare for Clemson. You mentioned last year's tape, you mentioned North Carolina. What do you view to be the most valuable tape to expose to the players?
We watch every game. So we watched last year's game. We've watched film from them in the off season. It's if you ever spent a week, you'd see we're watching clips from Georgia Tech, that is applicable to what they're doing. So, it's the whole season.
I don't think that you've seen LSU or Ohio State on film yet, but in your estimation, is Clemson the best team in the country?
I can't judge that. I haven't watched one snap of Ohio State. I haven't watched one snap of LSU. During football season, we live in our corner of the world. And our corner of the world is Winston-Salem, North Carolina, Wake Forest football, and the ACC. And what Southern Cal or Colorado or Minnesota are doing, I have no clue. I really don't. It's, when they ask coaches' opinions on that stuff, to me, for a coach to have a strong opinion on that, he's probably not doing his job. Because his job is his football team and the opponents he plays, not the national. You know, when coaches get up there and lobby for themselves against other teams, I mean, do you really have that much time to study other teams that much in depth? I mean, you know, I try to stay in my lane.
What kind of response do you feel you got from your offensive unit today in practice?
Good. I mean, we have a good offense, Les. I mean, we have kids that are prideful, and they're disappointed with how they played. They didn't play well. They know it, but they also know that they know who we're playing. I mean, you watch film on these guys, holy cow. I mean, it's what they do year after year consistently, and they're so multiple that you have to have a great Tuesday, and I think our guys responded. I mean, Les, you've been around our kids. Is there any doubt in your mind how Cade Carney or Jamie Newman or Justin Herron or Nate Gillum or Jake Benzinger or Zach Tom or Jack Frudenthal or Kendall Hinton are going to respond? I mean, of all the things I worry about, I don't worry about that. We've got competitors. We've got kids that love football, kids that love playing for Wake Forest. And, you know, does that mean we're going to play great on Saturday? No, but I know our kids care. I never, ever doubt that.
I know it's early on in the process, but do you have a sense of whether Sage will be back next year? Is a draft eligible kid?
I anticipate him coming back. So, but, you know, those are conversations at the end of the season, and you know, whatever players decide to do, we support them. So, I mean, I don't think as a head coach, getting involved in those decisions, it's not my place. You know, that we certainly try to get those players all the information from the NFL and all that stuff, but then at the end of the day, we let them make it. You know, we can't be, you know, I don't want to be responsible for either choice. Whatever they do, they have to own it and live with it. And our job and those things is to get them information and support them. All right, thank you.